Picture this. Cyprus. 9,500 years ago. An archaeologist's brush whispers across dry earth, revealing two skeletons, curled together in their final sleep. One is human. The other is a cat. There are no butcher marks. This wasn't food. This was a burial. A partnership. This single grave rips up everything we thought we knew about our most mysterious companion. It's the key to a radical idea: we didn't domesticate cats. They domesticated us. This isn't a history lesson. It's an investigation. We're going to follow the evidence, from the first grain silos to the courts of Egyptian gods, from the DNA of Viking cats to the purr that's currently manipulating your brain chemistry. By the end, you'll understand the ancient, unwritten contract that explains every head boop, every midnight meow, and why your cat is the true master of your house. This is the story of the Cat Treaty. To understand how the cat got its claws into us, we have to go back to the dawn of everything. About 12,000 years ago, humanity made its biggest bet. We gave up the wandering life of the hunter-gatherer and decided to stay put. We invented agriculture. Think about the sheer audacity of that decision. For the first time, we weren't just living off the land, we were trying to control it. Places like Jericho saw the first permanent settlements spring up. We built walls, we built houses, and most importantly, we built granaries. These weren't just sheds. A granary was a calorie bank. It was the difference between a community thriving through a hard winter or starving to death. Inside these structures, we stockpiled our future, thousands upon thousands of kernels of wild wheat and barley. It was our insurance policy against a hostile world. But we had created a new kind of paradise. And we hadn't read the fine print. We had unknowingly sent out an invitation. Because if a village is a machine that makes leftovers, then we had just built the biggest leftover factory in history. And something heard the call. First came the scouts. Then came the armies. Not armies of men, but armies of mice and rats. For them, a human granary wasn't just a meal, it was a utopia. A fortress of endless food, safe from predators, warm and dry. They swarmed our settlements. We find their gnaw marks on ancient wooden beams, their droppings mixed into the dirt floors of the earliest homes. They were a plague. They didn't just eat our grain, they contaminated it, spreading disease. This was an existential threat. Our entire future, our great gamble on civilization, was at risk of being devoured by a tide of tiny teeth. We were fighting a war we couldn't win. What do you do when your greatest invention creates your greatest vulnerability? You look for an ally. Or, as it turns out, an ally finds you. Moving at the edges of the firelight, in the scrublands of the Near East, was a creature perfectly designed for our problem. A solitary, brutally efficient hunter. The Near Eastern Wildcat, Felis silvestris lybica. And it was about to make us an offer we couldn't refuse. Understand this, the wildcat did not come looking for a friend. It had zero interest in us. It didn't want to be petted. It didn't want to be fed by hand. It was, and in many ways still is, a perfect killing machine. It was a creature of ambush and precision, a ghost in the long grass. It required no training, no special commands, no complex pack structure like a wolf. Its entire existence was geared towards one thing: opportunity. And our new villages? They were the greatest opportunity in 10,000 years. We had gathered its favorite food source, rodents, and concentrated it in one place. For Felis lybica, a human settlement wasn't a home. It was a hunting ground. An all-you-can-eat buffet where the main course was practically delivered to your doorstep. So the first stage of the treaty was silent. Unspoken. It was a deal of pure pragmatism. The cats slipped through the shadows of our walls and began to do what they do best. They hunted. Imagine the relief of those first farmers. Waking up to find fewer gnawed holes in their grain sacks. Hearing the scratching in the walls slowly fade. This silent, beautiful, slightly terrifying creature was solving their biggest problem, free of charge. All it asked in return was that we look the other way. It was a simple business transaction. We provide the hunting ground, it provides the pest control. A classic commensal relationship. The cat benefited from us, but didn't harm us. We benefited from the cat, but didn't have to do anything. For centuries, this was the deal. A loose alliance. The cat was a feature of the village, like the well or the perimeter wall. Useful. Respected. But not family. So what changed? How did this wild, aloof mercenary end up inside our homes, in our laps, and eventually, in our hearts? For the answer, we have to go back to that grave in Cyprus. Because that burial isn't a record of a business deal. It's a signature on a new contract. Let's look closer at the evidence from Chilarocambos. The details here are everything. First, location. Cyprus is an island. A significant stretch of open water separates it from the mainland. There were no land bridges. This means the cat, or its very recent ancestors, did not just wander over. Someone, a human, had to physically pick up that cat, place it in a boat, and ferry it across the sea. Think about that. You don't take a wild, dangerous animal on a risky sea voyage unless it is incredibly important to you. You're not transporting a pest. You're transporting a partner. Second, the burial itself. In archaeology, how something is buried tells you everything. This cat wasn't tossed in a refuse pit with leftover bones from dinner. It was placed carefully, intentionally, beside a human. The human has grave goods, tools, shells, objects of value for the afterlife. The cat's placement implies it was also seen as something of value. There is a powerful message being sent across 9,500 years, this creature belonged with us. It wasn't just a tool, like a stone blade. It was a companion. Its life, and its death, had meaning. This is the moment the treaty changes. The unspoken alliance of pest control is now being written down in bone. It's the first physical proof that our relationship with cats had evolved from pure utility into something emotional. Something closer to kinship. We were no longer just sharing space, we were sharing our lives, and even our deaths. We looked at this wild hunter and saw a protector, an ally. And in a gesture of profound significance, we said, "You are one of us." This single grave in Cyprus proves the treaty was signed. But how did it go global? The cat had conquered the village, but its ambition was much, much bigger. The next stage of its plan would involve ships, empires, and gods. The genetic paper trail proves it. If the Cyprus grave is the signed contract, then the cat's DNA is the paper trail that shows how it expanded its empire. And thanks to modern geneticists, we can read that trail like a history book. Scientists like Carlos Driscoll and their teams analyzed the mitochondrial DNA of hundreds of cats, both wild and domestic, from all over the world. Mitochondrial DNA is passed down from mother to child, which allowed them to trace the maternal ancestry of every house cat on Earth back to its source. The verdict was unanimous. All our cats, from a Siamese in London to a stray in Tokyo, are descendants of Felis silvestris lybica. That one subspecies of wildcat from the Near East. The taproot of all catdom is right there, in the Fertile Crescent, where agriculture began. But here's where it gets truly wild. The genetics show the cat's conquest happened in two distinct waves. Wave 1 was the land invasion. As early farmers migrated out of the Near East and into Europe and Asia, they took two things with them, their seeds, and their cats. The cat moved at the speed of agriculture, a silent partner in the human expansion across the continents. Its genes follow the trail of grain, a paw print on the map wherever humans settled. But Wave 2 was a blitzkrieg. It happened much later, and it was powered by the sea. The genetic evidence, detailed in studies by researchers like Eva Maria Giegel and Claudio Ottoni, reveals a second, dominant feline lineage spreading like wildfire around the first millennium BC. And this one came from Egypt. The Egyptian cat wasn't just a pest controller. As we'll see, it was a cultural and religious icon. And when the Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans built their vast maritime trading networks, the cat became standard-issue equipment on every ship. A ship is just a floating granary, and it is paradise for rats. Rats could destroy food stores, chew through ropes, and spread disease, crippling a vessel on a long journey. A cat wasn't a luxury on a ship, it was a critical piece of technology, as essential as the rudder or the sails. So, cats got on board. They rode Roman galleys and Viking longships. And this is not speculation. Archaeologists found cat bones at a Viking port in northern Germany dating back to the 8th century. When they tested the DNA, they made a shocking discovery. This wasn't a local European wildcat. Its genetic signature was pure Egyptian. Imagine that. A Viking warrior, smelling of salt and tar, sharing his ship with a cat whose direct ancestors had sunned themselves on the banks of the Nile and been worshipped as gods. The cat had hacked our global supply chain, using our own ships to stage a planetary takeover. But how did the Egyptian cat become so important that it ended up on that Viking ship? Because in Egypt, the terms of the treaty were escalated beyond anyone's wildest dreams. In Egypt, the cat didn't just move into our houses. It moved into our souls. The Egyptians owed everything to the Nile and the grain it produced. Protecting the harvest wasn't just a job, it was a sacred duty. And the cat, the perfect guardian of the granaries, was therefore seen as a gift from the gods. At first, it was simple reverence. We see cats in Egyptian art appearing under the chairs of nobles, a calm, protective presence in the home. They were beloved pets, cherished members of the family. But then, it escalated. This appreciation morphed into full-blown worship. The goddess Batet, often depicted with the head of a cat, became one of the most popular deities in Egypt. She wasn't some minor god, she was the protector of the home, of women, of fertility. To protect the cat was to earn Bastet's favor. To harm a cat was to invite divine wrath upon your entire household. The Greek historian Diodorus Siculus tells a story, perhaps exaggerated but telling, of a Roman soldier in Egypt who accidentally killed a cat. Despite the pleas of the pharaoh himself, an enraged mob dragged the soldier from his home and tore him apart. True or not, the message is clear. The cat was no longer just useful. It was untouchable. This religious fervor created something incredible, an entire industry of cat worship. Archaeologists excavating the ancient cities of Bubastis and Saqqara have uncovered vast cat necropolises. We're not talking about a few dozen burials. We are talking about millions. Millions of mummified cats, each one wrapped in fine linen, sometimes with intricate masks, buried as a sacred offering to Batet. This was industrial-scale devotion. It implies supply chains of breeders, embalmers, priests, and pilgrims. The cat was now an economic engine, a spiritual icon, and the ultimate symbol of protection. This is the single most brilliant clause in the cat treaty. The cat had gone from a simple pest controller to a living deity. By intertwining itself with our deepest beliefs about survival and the afterlife, it secured for itself the ultimate protection racket. It had achieved a status no other animal ever has. So, the cat had conquered our villages, our ships, our empires, and even our gods. But the final phase of its plan was the most audacious. It wasn't about conquering our territory anymore. It was about conquering our minds. Throughout this entire story, one thing is remarkable. While we were radically reshaping dogs, breeding them into everything from tiny lap dogs to giant wolfhounds, the cat stayed almost physically identical to its wild ancestor. The cat didn't need us to change its body. Because it wasn't relying on physical tools. It was developing a psychological toolkit. It was learning to hack our brain chemistry. Let's start with the purr. It seems simple, a sign of contentment. But scientists like Karen McComb discovered something hidden inside it. Certain cats, when they want something from their owners, usually food, embed a second sound within the low-frequency purr. It's a high-frequency cry, one that shares a specific acoustic band with the cry of a human infant. It's called the solicitation purr. And it is diabolically brilliant. We are hardwired, on a deep, biological level, to respond to the sound of a baby in distress. It triggers our caregiving circuits. We can't ignore it. The cat has learned to smuggle the sound of a human baby into its purr to make us get up and fill its bowl. It is pure acoustic manipulation. Next, the connection. For years people thought cats were aloof, that they didn't really care about their owners. But studies have shown that many cats form secure attachments to their humans, just like toddlers do with their parents. They use their owner as a secure base to explore a strange environment, returning for reassurance. They're not just tolerating us for food. They're plugged into our social bonding systems. They even learn our language. Research from Japan has shown that cats can distinguish their own names from other random words, even when spoken by a stranger. They are listening. They are learning. Rubbing against your legs, slow blinking, the tail-up greeting, these aren't just cute quirks. These are social tools, a sophisticated language developed over millennia to disarm us, to solicit care, to turn a human house into a cat's home. The cat didn't need to be redesigned by us. Because it was busy redesigning us. It analyzed our behavior, our instincts, our weaknesses, and it crafted a set of signals that we are psychologically incapable of resisting. It traded mice for myth, and then it traded myth for unconditional affection. So let's bring it back to today. To your house. When your cat meows at you at 3 a.m., you are not hearing a random animal noise. You are hearing the echo of a 9,500-year-old contract. That high-pitched, urgent sound is the direct descendant of the cry that first convinced a Neolithic farmer to offer a scrap of food, the sound that was refined in Egyptian temples and on Roman ships. That meow is an organic push notification, a high-frequency alert targeted directly at the caregiving centers of your brain. It's harder to ignore than an alarm clock because it's exploiting circuitry that's millions of years older than any technology. The treaty has moved from the granary to your bedroom pillow. The terms have shifted from calories for pest control to attention for affection. And the fine print is still there. Things like the parasite Toxoplasma gondii, a reminder that our treaties with nature always have complex biological clauses. But we've updated the protocols with litter boxes and indoor living. The verdict of our investigation is clear. The cat did not wait for our permission. It saw the new world we were building and recognized an opportunity. It read our architecture, it read our surplus, and it read our instincts. It aligned its skills with our needs, and then, with breathtaking patience, it honed a set of psychological tools to rewrite the rules in its favor. It drafted a contract we still honor to this day, every time we open a can of food or clean a litter box. Every purr, every midnight meow, is the ghost of a granary door swinging open, a testament to the most successful, and most subtle, domestication story on Earth. The story of the animal that domesticated itself. And before you go, it's time to admit who's really in charge. Answer this in the comments. What's the one rule your cat has successfully taught you? And if you want to understand more of these hidden contracts that define our modern world, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The archives are always open.